It is fascinating dynamic when you dig into the world of so-called insurance. And I say so-called because so much of it isn't insurance anymore, post-Obamacare. I recently had a surgery on my shoulder, not recently, and I was like 2 years ago. Is that right? It's about 2 years ago. And going into that surgery, I went and got approval from Medicare. I called them and said, hey, here's the surgery I have to have, and I'm looking for the facility. And the first thing they said was, oh, well, we don't work with that facility, and we don't work with that surgeon. Oh, well, garbage. Then I'm going to have to pay out of pocket because I'm not going to go to another surgeon, and I'm not going to go to another hospital. There's no other hospital in our area to which I'd go to get this done. So that was a huge shocker. And then I contacted the surgeon and said, hey, they don't work with you. And he goes, what are you talking about? We work with Medicare all the time. No, we've got a great relationship with them. So no, that's not true. And I called them back and said, wait, I just got off the phone with the surgeon and you guys do work with them. Well, let us search again. Oh yeah, we do. So funny thing, then I go to the hospital and I get this all arranged. And the day before the surgery, the hospital calls me and they say, yeah, you're going to have to pay out of pocket. Wait. This is all approved. No. We don't work with Medicare again. So I go down to the hospital with a check for, and I'm never going to forget the amount, $27,652. Hey, can you go pull that out? Sure. Let me go liquidate a bunch of stocks. So I go down to the hospital and I have the check in my hand, and the patient advocate, who, by the way, is also the lady who runs billing, brilliant setup, Northwest Specialty Hospital, great hospital. And I'm there with the check, and she says, well, wait, hold on, what are you doing? Well, I'm paying in advance for the surgery. You guys said I had to pay in advance. Well, do you have insurance? Medicare? Well, wait, give me your Medicare documents. And she looks it up. And she says, you have one of the best Medicare plans. Let me call him. So she calls him and says, hey, one of your clients is here. And she says, okay, no, this is approved. Well, later Medicare, about a year later, came back and said, yeah, never mind, that's not approved anymore. And here's the fun part of this is they came to me and said, here's how much you're going to owe. I'm like, that's interesting because that's more than the hospital wanted. You're going to say the procedure cost more than the hospital did. How is that possible? See, because they make this big claim that, oh, no, we go out and negotiate great rates on your behalf. No, you don't. This is a common practice in insurance, and I know Medicare pretends they're not insurance, and I get that, and there's a reason I use them, and I don't know that I'll continue to use them, but they're scamming people. And this is the scam they do. They go and argue up the rates with hospitals. They argue them up. So they can come to you and say, oh, we cut the cost by this much. You know, we cut it by 20%. Here's what the hospital is going to charge. Here's what we got you. And it's a common tactic, and it's a disappointing tactic, particularly for Medicare. Now, just an aside, I happen to run into a very, very good patient advocate at Medicare, and I've been through 3 appeals, and they are going to come and let a bunch of this be medically shared, praise God, but it took me 6 or 7 months and a whole bunch of writing. But the state of California is doing something that you could look at as so utterly absurd, and this guy calls them, and he wants to go back to cash payments. Because of what they're going to charge him. Okay, wait, so do I have to use my insurance? And this is a sign of how perversely tied in and intermingled insurance is with the state. They're one thing. I'll play this for you. I'll tell you about my friend Dave, who's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life because he's a functional quadriplegic. And I'll tell you something he discovered in his war with the government insurance, with Medicare. I'll do this in a second. War comes in many forms. There's a spiritual war that's going on, and you don't have to be part of it, except you're part of it. You don't have to declare you're part of it, but you're already part of it. Thank God most of us haven't had to be in physical wars, but there are people who do and did and still will. And we choose to honor them by working with Bone Frog Coffee. The name Bone Frog is the description, it's the name of an image that is the skeleton of a frog. It stands for a fallen frogman. Okay, so a fallen Navy SEAL. At Bone Frog Coffee, 10% of proceeds go to the Navy SEAL Foundation to help the families of fallen Navy SEALs, because sometimes there's an absurd amount of time between the death of a Navy SEAL and the benefits beginning to kick in. So we step in to fill that gap. So why is Bone Frog this way? Because the founder of Bone Frog went to war on our behalf 3 times as a medic attached to the SEAL teams. His name is Tim Cruikshank. He's the guy that put on every bag God Country Team. He's also the guy who designed a brand new bag called Golden Age. And it is the American eagle in gold form, wings spread out over the country, celebrating President Trump's attempts to right-size our economy as he fights rogue judges, as he fights the mockingbird media, and a global trade system that doesn't want to change. It's a limited time roast, a limited time bag. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/Todd. Use code Todd to get 10% off your first purchase and 15% off subscription coffee. It's bonefrogcoffee.com/Todd. This gentleman decided to take a video of his interaction with the California authorities. Listen as he begs to go back to cash-only payment rather than using his so-called insurance.
So I think there's a mistake on the bill, but maybe you could help me out. We got a bill, and then we realized that you guys didn't have our insurance, so we sent you the insurance, and it looks like the bill went up. Yeah, the first bill we got without the insurance was $600, and then the second one was almost $1,300.
Yeah, so that the first invoice you received, that's a discount that you receive if you're uninsured. So you're not eligible for the discount since you are insured. And so the bill was $2,342.14. We billed your insurance. Your insurance only paid $1,078.80.
Can I go back to the discount without the insurance?
No, so you're insured, so you're not eligible for the discount.
If I go cancel my insurance, am I eligible for the discount?
No, sir, because we checked eligibility and you do have active coverage for data service.
Oh, I needed to cancel it before I got the service to get the discount.
You're only eligible for the discount if you're uninsured.
Okay, so I'll get cheaper health care if I'm uninsured.
If you're uninsured, you're eligible for the discount, correct?
Is this common? Like I pay for insurance and I end up paying more out of pocket because I pay for a premium? That's wild.
No, this is just a new law that passed or started 2024 AB 716, and the law is if you receive a discount if you're uninsured.
The law is only formalizing what's done in the industry anyway. There is no actual insurance anymore. Everything is about cost shifting. Everything is about turning insurance into Medicare. Why? Because they want to be able to let lobbyists decide what care is, quote, covered, and they want to make it a big, big pool that everybody pays into so they can cost shift into things that goes back to this phrase we use in the program, forcing you to purchase products you don't want from companies you don't like at prices you can't afford for services you do not need. This is why you have 22-year-old people paying insurance for end-of-life care and 89-year-old people paying insurance in case they decide that they aren't born in the wrong body and need to get that changed. That's not going to happen at 89, and 22-year-olds do not need end-of-life care, but this is the way they do it. And then they argue in their pet drugs and their pet treatments into this, and they're just sitting there lapping at the trough. If you feel a sucking on your aorta, part of that is the insurance company right there in your aorta. My friend Dave is a functional quadriplegic. Functional in that he's actually miraculously allowed God to teach him how to play slide guitar. Someone has to set the guitar in his lap, but then he can play. He's been a guitar player his whole life. So he has to have a very, very specific wheelchair because of these sores he develops. He's in it all day. And it finally began to fail, so he went to the wheelchair store. And he said, this is the model I need, and it's a very specific model for the very specific way Dave is disabled, and the very specific way his body works, and he has to sit, and he needed an attachment for this. So he goes to the wheelchair store, and the guy says, hey, we're not going to be able to purchase the attachment. Why? Medicare won't pay for it. Okay, well, that's disturbing. So I'll pay cash for that part. We can't let you. What? Yeah, we can't let you have it. What do you mean you can't let me have it? Medicare's denied it. Okay, but I'm willing to pay for that part out of pocket. Yeah, they won't let you do that. And he said, do you understand that I can die from bed sores and from wheelchair sores, that those get infected and I could be dead? And he goes, hey, I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do. Well, what if I purchase the whole chair for cash? So what if I spend my own money instead of using Medicare for this? And the guy goes, let me check. What? Wait, let you check? I don't know if we're allowed to do that. You don't know if you're allowed to take my money? Yeah, because we could get in real trouble. So they had to go check and see if they could let someone use US dollars to purchase a wheelchair that he will need for the rest of his life. And if he doesn't get that attachment, it could kill him. Now, why is this? It's because these lobbyists have argued in their gear to be paid for, and other stuff's not going to be paid for because there was no one there lobbying for that specific attachment to his chair. So ultimately what Dave did is he purchased the chair they wanted him to purchase, and then he paid a friend of his to take his old attachment and change this chair and cut it apart and do a bunch of welding and to put the chair back into form where Dave could use this. Insurance is government, government is insurance, and lobbyists are government. And there used to be a word for that, but I can't remember what it was because now it means orange man. Oh, that's right. The word is fascism. That's the word. Government and companies become one.